Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Bhava Wellness in Tucson, Arizona. This is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to our show, and welcome to Live. We are here at Bhava Wellness. Check out this. Can I do that? Whoa, there we go. We got a posse. Yeah, there. We got a posse. Live is even more better than live. If you're on Zoom and you think, I finally made it to Zoom, I'm finally live, guess what? There's a platinum program called Live. That's where you're actually sitting right next to me. And we are here with this incredible group of people at Bhava Wellness. Kaustubha, let me just share something. I flew in here, I was feeling just so under the weather and miserable. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Are you guys good?
Uh-huh.
Okay, good. Okay, thanks. I flew in here miserable, and I had a headache and feeling all down, feeling a little, am I going to be sick? And then, the Bhava Wellness witch appeared behind the Radha Priti appeared, and she gave me this stuff. Check this out. Headache relief. She makes her own tinctures. It's a whole line of medicinal herbs. She's like a little witch, and she knows how to blend plants together, and she's studied this for years, and she has a whole incredible line. Now I'm guzzling this fire cider because in this whole pandemic, people are forgetting all about your immune system. So I am so happy I'm here. You can get that at Bhava Wellness, Bhava wellness.com. They got a whole incredible line. Thank you. I feel so much stronger. I'm going to guzzle all your tinctures today. How are you, Kaustubha? You got a new apartment. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy about it. Kind of exhausted, but got a special opportunity. I mean, that's one of the silver linings to COVID is apartments all over the city opened up, and prices came way down on them. So I kind of got in a kind of a posh neighborhood for the first time in my life, and anyway, managed to squeeze in there somehow. But it's a beautiful place, and we're going to be inviting you over.
Anyone who's been apartment. Good. I'm going to help you move in, man. I got
to
pick up truck.
That's what I meant.
Move stuff.
That's what I meant by inviting you. And Mara has volunteered the Simmons Catering vans.
Simon's
Catering.
Simon's Catering bands.
Vans. The vans. She's got.
Vans. Oh wow.
Cargo vans.
We got so many. We have. Wisdom of the Sages community will move you in like that, Kaustubha.
All right, let's do it.
Like 30 people carrying your deity paraphernalia, stack books. They'll be in there in a moment.
Okay.
It's basically books and an altar. That's what he's got in his apartment.
There's a lot of books. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's great. It's a beautiful place. It's really quiet. It's got a little, sometimes when you're in the back of the building, you got a whole forest that they're on the top floor and the trees come all the way up, and it's beautiful. And half a block from the park. That's the main thing, right?
Yeah. Anyway, that's great news. Hey, I wanted to tell people today also, if you like, or if you're listening to the show, you hear a nugget of some wisdom that speaks to your heart, some nugget of truth or something, it resonates with you, write it down. Share it, tag me, at Raghunath and tag Wisdom of the Sages. We'll repost it. Sometimes it's in sharing those little nuggets that we might even miss, but it spoke to you. It might help a person a lot today. And I'm convinced that sharing truth is probably one of the better things that you can do in this world. And so spread it, invite people to the show. It's a great way to get the word out, and it's a great way to remind everyone who heard. And you know what I'm saying. Mara, bail me out. Mara, when I can't finish a sentence, that's where you jump in and finish that sentence for me.
Ooh, sorry, I dropped the ball on that.
You got to be there waiting for Raghunath to stumble. Do I have a weak internet connection, or is it just you guys with a weak internet connection?
I think you have a poor connection. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that bad, but
What? Bhava Wellness. Okay. There's a little bit of a lag. More friends are showing up here. Okay, so let's dive into these questions. If you're new to the show, welcome. Today is Questions and Answers Day. It's when people throw in their questions because on a spiritual path, questions naturally come up. So let's see who's first.
I'm reading you a question first.
Okay,
ready?
Good, because I'm discombobulated.
And this is a question you've been waiting to answer for some time now, I think. You mentioned it on the show earlier in this week, I think, right? Or maybe like in the early.
That's a good answer.
Well, let's see. You ready?
Yeah.
It's not an easy question.
Yeah.
Okay, just the other day, this is coming from David Cameron via email. And he writes.
Oh, David Cameron, the famous film director of Avatar, that David Cameron?
No, different one.
Okay.
He says, just the other day, I had a conversation with an ISKCON monk who leads an ashram. Okay.
Whenever I hear that, I was like, okay, good luck.
What happened?
Fingers crossed.
After a few minutes, I began to tell him how grateful I was to teachers from the Ramakrishna Order of the Vedanta Society. You know, crazy thing is, my new apartment is it's like almost like across the street from the Vedanta Society, which was established in 1894. Crazy, right?
Oh, well, let's invite them
I'm
over.
going to get to know the Swamis. I think I'm going to get to know the Swamis from their society. So anyway,
Okay.
and he immediately cut me off when he mentioned how grateful he was to these Ramakrishna Order Swamis. He immediately cut me off and said that having anything to do with them is quote unquote spiritual suicide. His reason all boiled down to the fact that this particular lineage does not prohibit meat eating and that some of the sannyasis eat chicken. The conversation continued and became increasingly negative, with him asserting that practitioners of this order should not be considered devotees in any way, and that what they do is no different from eating human babies. Okay, I was depressed by the exchange. There is something about food that triggers us.
Oh, really? Because I know a guy.
Huh? There's something about food that. There is something about food that triggers us. I see this happen in the secular world, where you have vegans on the one hand arguing with Atkins diet ketogenic advocates on the other. And the exchanges get very nasty, very quickly, rife with accusations of intention and integrity. Their arguments, in fact, resemble religious conflict at its most extreme. I know that issues of meat eating and vegetarianism are very complicated, and that the debate comprises issues of ethics, economics, financial status, spirituality, health, and simple practicality. I'm journeying toward vegetarianism for purely ethical and spiritual reasons. However, I live in a house with 5 other people, 4 of whom are adults, none of whom share this conviction. On certain nights of the week, it's my job to prepare a meal for all of them. On other nights, my job is to show gratitude for all the efforts that others put in to prepare a large, delicious meal. Buddha taught his disciples not to eat meat, yet to always accept with gratitude food that is offered to them. Here's my question. Ready for the question? That was a lot of background. Here comes the question.
Yeah.
It's
a good backstory, though. I'd like to hear that.
Okay, now here's the question, though. This is what you got to focus on. Ready? Here it comes. How do we maintain spiritual practices and disciplines with integrity, yet not become rigid and spiritually prideful and separate from others who are otherwise our brethren? I can't help thinking that Jesus reserved his harshest words for those most committed to purity laws. Take it away, Robin. How do we maintain these spiritual practices and discipline with integrity and not become rigid and spiritually prideful and separate from others who are otherwise our brethren?
You said he can't believe Jesus? Is that what you said at the end? I can't
He
believe.
says, no, what he said was, he can't help but, when he experiences something like this, he can't help but think about how Jesus reserved his harshest words for those people that were most committed to purity laws. In other words, to people that were judgmental about religious purity.
Sure. I agree. I mean, I think a great rule is very strict with yourself and very liberal with others. I mean, you're always appreciating others. I find in my own life, whenever I get a little haughty, a little proud
haughty.
of my position of being haughty, I like that word, haughty, a little proud of my position where I'm at, it comes around and bites me. And it's truthfully, we're doing it wrong. If that's our approach to people, we're doing it turns more people off. If you persuade a person by your force, very often they either back off or you attract their qualities of authoritarianism, and then they become also a little bit like fanatical. I would do it much differently. If a person said I was inspired by the Ramakrishna mission, I would be like, that's great. I mean, they speak a lot of
what inspired
incredible
you?
truths. Wherever you're going to hear truths.
Yeah.
What's that?
You could say what inspired you.
What inspired you? Exactly. Yeah, what inspired you? We don't have to present our path as better by cutting down another person's path. Matter of fact, immediately I'll go to, and then I met this Bhakti guy who hated everybody. What good is that? Why not just give some other inspiration? Tell them why you're inspired in Bhakti. So I think it's a approach is to find fault with every other tradition. Why not find some commonality in other traditions? And if you do have something to offer, will be obvious by the way you live, by the way you speak, by the way you speak it about others. You know, there's a great saying, if you really want to know about a person, never like look at their resume or read their bio, because you'll never learn anything about them. If you really want to learn about other people, don't have them speak about themselves. Listen to how they speak about others. What do you think about that, Kaustubha?
Okay.
I really like that saying. You know what I mean?
All right. Sounds
Tag
good.
that thing. Listen how they speak about others, because that's what we're in training to. It's so easy to get proud of. And I think this is Maya's trick, and it's a really important thing, especially with the climate that we're living in right now. Be careful of the hate demon. The hate demon's looking for you guys. They call it the devil, call it Maya, whatever you want to call it. I call it the hate demon. Where in the name of doing something really good to help the world, I hate all these other people. I'm seeing it right now so loud and so proud. And we're going to show them. And we've just been tricked by Maya to hate, tricked by the hate demon. And in the name of doing something good, be super careful. And especially on a bhakti path, because in a bhakti path is our hands are folded and we are practicing realness, which means genuine humility. I am small. I am riddled with faults, and I'm trying to overcome those faults. And so I have no right to criticize anybody on their path. Sometimes I might be straight edge. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't eat meat. And there's a person who eats meat because they haven't that hasn't digested yet for them, but they're evolved in so many other ways. You know, I'd say just be very careful with when you speak about other people. Did I drift from that answer?
No, I thought you were right on it. I think you really stayed right on topic on that one. But I have a question related to it for you. But isn't it necessary that we also discern Like that sometimes we have to recognize if something is favorable or unfavorable, if people are presenting something
Sure.
that's helpful or unhelpful, and then isn't it necessary to recognize that, sometimes speak to it?
It is, but I wouldn't lead with that. I wouldn't lead with why other people have it wrong. I
Hmm.
would lead with what's right and and give something else that's right, especially if you're representing an institution.
Yeah. Right. I mean,
Here's
if you
the guy
come
who's
up and
going to
just saying,
lead the
don't, yeah, those,
ashram.
yeah, I get it.
Those guys are a
I'm,
bunch of scoundrels. It says, and compare them to baby eaters. It's
I mean,
like,
that's,
especially because this guy himself is still, dealing with meat eating himself. Basically, you're calling him a baby eater.
okay. All right. So don't call
Anyway,
people baby
thanks for that
eaters.
question,
Yeah.
David Cameron.
All right.
Don't call people baby eaters if they're struggling with meat eating. Keep those films coming out. We need more films like Avatar and the Titanic. Those were great pieces of work. Thank you for your contribution, and thank you so much. Now, I've got a question for you, Mr. Kaustubha.
Okay. Where's it coming from?
Questions. Well, first it's coming from my mail folder. See, because I don't have my big screen, I've got thousands of things open on my screen today. And this is coming from a little known person called, oh my God, wrote me a little book. Oh, it's our famous Italian, Matilda Mussolini. We joke about her, Matilda Mossel. And she wrote via email,
Okay.
Matilda Mussolini. Okay, ready for this one? She says, "Thank you so much for a wonderful show today. Kaustubha's mafia story." Oh, this was a good one. Kaustubha's mafia story.
That's when I started looking for an
When
apartment.
he
It's
was
2 weeks
running
ago.
from the mob. Did you guys hear that? And they shot at him, and he hid under a.
They were not
Okay,
necessarily
you
in
missed
the
that one. You gotta go.
mafia, but they just acted like it. Maybe they were. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. The mafia tried to rub him out. Thank you so much for this wonderful Kaustubha's mafia story and him saying one should not make important decisions without consulting gurus, right? Gurus or
People you trust.
people
that
that you
have
look
good.
up to, friends,
Yeah.
people you can trust. You don't have to go out and find, Paramahamsa Yogananda before you make a decision. I realize there are people whom I can reach out to, people whose judgment I trust. There you go.
Okay.
Frankly, I have been feeling quite lonely and vulnerable in the decision-making process lately. Although things have, for the most part, worked out very well as a result of following my gut and my heart. However, now I'm facing a decision which I cannot seem to make, and it's causing me that cloud of material anxiety. Kaustubha Prabhu was talking about. No, that Kaustubha Prabhu
On
was
that day,
talking about that cloud of anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kaustubha was confused, and so if you wouldn't mind, I ask you kindly to offer me some advice on what to do in this situation. I recently moved by myself into a house in the countryside in the middle of Sweden. My auntie lives fairly close. Isn't that cute? She says auntie. I don't say that. My auntie lives fairly close, but apart from that, I knew no one in the surrounding areas. Many people have asked me why I moved here, and all I can say is I just felt I had to, which is the truth. And since moving here, pieces of the puzzle have fallen into place without any real effort. And I have come in contact with a Bhakti Yoga community and the Wisdom of the Sages podcast community, for which I'm immensely grateful. I'm working as a kindergarten teacher, devoting my time and myself to the children. I am also volunteering through IOGT NTO's junior group activities. I don't know what that is, but it sounds good.
It sounds pretty good, whatever it is. Helping kids.
Sounds like she's doing some good work. She's a kindergarten teacher. She's living in the countryside. She's perfect. She's living a perfect life. Meaning has a devotee community. Meaning a space for children growing up in or with families, parents, or a parent suffering from any type of addiction. Oh, okay, that
there you
makes
go.
sense. All of this basically falling into my hands. Okay. There's a strong feeling in my heart that this is what I'm brought here to do. So, this is the thing. In this small community, I also have the opportunity of teaching yoga inspired classes at the local gym. I have no teacher training. The only experience I have got is through my own practice. My mind is telling me this is a great opportunity to introduce body and spirit awareness in this community, and to possibly incorporate the Bhakti tradition into the practice. But I'm afraid it is my ego speaking, thinking I am to change people's lives for the better. Who am I to judge what is appropriate for others? It's the old, should I pull the trigger or not? Sounds good. Should I pull the trigger? Okay. I know where this is going, even though she hasn't asked a question yet. At the time, another part of my mind is trying to convince me. At the same time, another part of my mind is trying to convince me I'm just scared. Scared I won't be good enough. Scared I won't be able to do it. Ever suffer from any of those? I'm not good enough to do this. That's a big one, Matilda. My own take on it is that I simply cannot stay committed to things that do not have that sense of fulfillment, which has resulted in me trying many different things, none of which have been satisfying in the long run. This is what ultimately led me to Bhakti.
Okay.
I totally get this question too. I was the same exact way. So, about the yoga, I feel a sense of worry that I'm turning down an opportunity given me by Krishna. And I feel another type of fear that I am cutting myself short of feeding my ego. As you can tell, I'm a bit torn. I do not want to cause anyone harm practicing, teaching asanas, and at the same time, as you said, we start small. This opportunity would be to start small, being simply a yoga-inspired group training. Any contribution in this contribution? Any contribution for me? Any words of wisdom? Or am I simply allowing myself to be misguided by my ego? Please, dear Prabhu, I humbly ask for your guidance. Matilda Mossel from Sweden. That's a great question. I think a lot of us can really relate to that.
Well, yeah, I appreciate the question a lot, actually, because I feel a certain sincerity in there, wanting to do the right thing. It's so, if I understand this correctly, Matilda, she practices yoga, but she's really not trained to teach yoga. But apparently there's people there that are turning to her and saying, hey, can you help us? We want to learn what you're doing. And I think that, there's a tension here. On the one hand, you don't want to teach something if you're not qualified to teach it, right? That's fair enough. And I think we live in a world, especially in the yoga world, where people are very quick to get some kind of certification as a teacher, whether it's asana or some kind of healing or meditation or whatever. People very quickly, it's not like they live a life.
Master.
Yeah, and just turn it around like super quick and become a teacher in something that you really don't necessarily know very deeply or well. People have those theories about like 10,000 hours and stuff like that, right? You've heard that kind of thing before, really?
Yeah, in 10,000 hours you could be a master at anything. That theory.
Yeah, that's what it takes to become a master at something. And
you want to be a lawyer? 10,000 hours.
And that's something.
You want to be black belt? 10,000.
Yeah. So in other words, it takes a commitment. It takes time. It takes some level of immersion in any topic to become really knowledgeable about it. And so I appreciate her hesitancy to kind of take that role. And at the same time, she's out there in the middle of nowhere, and there's this group of people, and they're turning to her, and she knows something, and maybe she can help them. And would it be wrong for her to try to do so? And so I think there's just a principle, I when I read this, I remembered sometimes like Srila Prabhupada, like we had Shyam Sundar on the show back in the summer, right? And he was the man that traveled with Srila Prabhupada, met him in San Francisco and then traveled all around the world with him. And they were so adventurous together. And at that time, there were three married couples that went to London, and then they traveled throughout India with Prabhupada. And Shyama Sundar And his wife Malati had a little daughter named Saraswati at the time, who was, just born during that time. So she was, 1, 2, 3 years old, going through all this. And Prabhupada, it used to make him so happy that he would see little Saraswati just walk up to people and say, "Do you know who Krishna is?" And they say, "No." And she would go, "He's the supreme personality of Godhead." Like that. And then she would walk off, and Prabhupada said, "That's perfect." Like she's sharing what she knows, right? She's no master, but she shares what she knows.
Philosopher.
Yeah. And I think we've all been, encouraged that way, that in any field, if we know something and we can share it, it's a good thing. But what's not good is that where it can get complicated is when we try to pose as something that we're not, or we try to pretend we know more than we know. And so I think there's like, you and I, we try to do that on the show. It's like, we come out and say, look, we're not super Bhagavatam scholars. We're not big gurus. But we're just people that are reading these books, and, we understand them on a certain level, and we'll just share what we can. And I think that if Matilda did something similar to that, I think it's in her heart to want to help people, obviously, just if you look at her occupation and how this request is kind of weighing on her. Like, yeah, I want to step in. I want to help. I think if you just share, if you're very open with the people that you're dealing with, and you say, look, I want to be very clear. I'm no yoga master here, right? But I can teach a class that's inspired by what I've learned. We can take it very gentle and very simple, and I can show you what I've done and what I've benefited from, and share it with you, and you can see if you benefit from it too. I'm not a big teacher. I'm not a guru of any sort. But if that's what you're interested in, sure. And if that becomes, if it becomes a form in which you can even build a nice little community there, then all the better. People that share the same values want to kind of come together. And if you know a little something, then I think share it with them. But just be clear with them, and also clear with yourself about what it is that you have the ability to share and what you don't, and just leave it there. Does that sound all right, brother?
That sounds beautiful.
Okay.
That sounds beautiful. When I was a white belt in jiu-jitsu,
yeah,
I was a teacher. I would teach. It would go on tour with my band, and I would teach my roadies jiu-jitsu. I was a white belt, but I still knew stuff they didn't know. If you know a little bit and someone knows nothing, you can give them something. You may not be a great teacher, or you might not be a master teacher. And then, of course, there's the art of teaching, which is a thing in of itself. Some people have to learn the art of teaching anything. But if you know something, you can give something. If you have 3, you can give 1.
Yeah, that's actually, Prabhupada talked about that as like the system of education, where like one teacher could teach like so many, like a whole group of kids all on different levels. Because what the teacher is doing is actually training one level of kids to, and then the kids actually become the teachers, and they train the other ones. And it's actually by teaching that you learn,
Yeah, truthfully, I think all teachers know this, is when you, even my greatest yoga students, when they flip it around, they start to teach it, they really learn yoga from a whole different vantage point, and it becomes more deeply rooted. That's why all the stuff you're learning on Wisdom of the Sages, speak it back to people, and then people will challenge you, and then you got to. It forces you to really think of this stuff in a very deep way. Yes.
All right. Okay, Matilda. I hope that was helpful.
Okay, dude. Hit me.
I got another one. I got another one for Raghunath. This one's come from Tim K.
Hey, by the way, I just want to welcome everybody listening on Facebook. If you're new to this on Facebook, we do this all the time. We do this every day, and you can join us. You can join us on Zoom, or you can go to anywhere you get podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube. All you got to do, but if you want to join us live on Zoom, you need a secret code, and Mara can send you that secret code. And you just go to wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. And she will send you the codes to get in. You can join this big, beautiful Zoom family. And we got about between 90 and 120 every day listening live, Monday through Friday at 5 a.m. Eastern Time, or 8 a.m. on the weekends. And I just want to give a plug. Tomorrow we have a very special guest on the show, one of my great teachers, Leela Villasini. I call her the reason why the whole show started, but she is live in Vrindavan, India, and she is going to share all about Krishna's pastimes. She's a master storyteller, and she's just so wonderful. Don't miss that show.
That's
Okay,
8 a.m.
Tim
Eastern
Curley.
time.
Tim Curley, I love this guy.
8 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Is that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So come from Tim Curley, who's he's a Zoomer, right?
He's a Zoomer. He's probably here poking around somewhere right now.
Okay. Here's the question. Other religions, quote unquote religions, mostly talk about their gods like they're the only true gods, quote unquote true gods. Like in Christianity, you hear all the time that Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one shall come unto the Father but by me. People take that to mean that Jesus is the only way and all other ways are not valid. But in the Old Testament, Jehovah is known by many different names, such as Jehovah, Jireh, God my provider, El Shaddai, my supplier, Adonai, my master, Jehovah Rophe, my healer, and so on. These are all names of the attributes. Muck and Lal, the butter thief.
The butter baby.
The butter baby. These are all names of the attributes of God, and we have all heard of the Godhead Father, Son of the Holy Spirit. The God of the Bible is known as creator, sustainer, and destroyer, kind of like Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. The more I learn about Hinduism, it seems like it's kind of the same, except instead of giving the attributes names, they give the attributes different personalities and make each one a god itself. This actually makes sense to me because in my mind, there's only one world, simply speaking, and there can only be one creator. What are the odds that we are all talking about the same God in different names? Why would God or gods come to one area of the world? Here's the question, okay? Why would God or a god or gods, I don't know, or God of gods? I'm not sure what that meant. But why would God come to one area of the world to help one group of people and say, I am God, I'm your God only. Everyone else is going to hell. Has anyone else thought like this, or am I getting off in La La Land?
Is that it?
Yep.
I think everybody probably on the show thinks like this. Matter of fact, I do think truth comes to different people at different times in different amounts. According to my audience, I'm like that the way I explain Bhakti to my 6-year-old is different the way I can explain it to my 13-year-old, different the way I can explain it to my 15-year-old, different to the way I explain it to a 20-year-old. So you give as much information. And just like I studied math from kindergarten to university, but it's a different type of math in 2nd grade. Okay, here's 20 apples. Take away 5 apples, and you'll have how many apples left? You know, you don't say pi r squared. You know, pi r squared. We're gonna reserve trigonometry. We're gonna reserve geometry and Calc 2. We're gonna reserve that for higher levels of math. It's all math. So, Tim, Krishna in the 7th chapter also says, stop worshiping all the other gods. It's not like just Buddha said, if you want to cross the great ocean, you do it through me. And Christ said, no one gets to the Father except through me. And Krishna says, there's no truth superior to me. So they all said the same thing. Are there different ancient aliens trying to trick us to get us to their planet? It could be that. That could be an option. Come to my planet. Don't go to his planet. I was doing good because it was like you were doing good, so good there.
No, I'm just trying to stop you.
Maybe we're getting tricked by various alien people.
I'm trying to stop you before you go too far.
I'm good. I just wanted to just throw that out there. So the idea is that for that particular time, they're saying, "Hey, you want it? Come, I'll give it right now. I'll give it, but you got to follow me. You got to do it." And because what happens is truth can get lost or it can get watered down, and we see that over time. that people can get into the rituals of religion and miss the substance of religion. A yoga teacher can get up there and chant Om, or have a big banner of Ganesh behind them, and the yoga student's like, who's that elephant god? Oh, nothing. It's just something for good luck. Unless you're knowing why you're chanting, or what you're worshiping, or why is there a statue of Shiva in my house, or even why am I burning incense? You have to understand the ritual, and then you have to understand the substance behind the ritual. And then the rituals become of substance. I mean, how many of us went to Mass on Sunday, this is the body of Christ, amen. I ate that thing, I drank the wine. I don't even know what I just did. I just liked the taste of it. It was a little good. They get the little grape juice. I don't even know what the hell I just did. What do you mean I ate the body of Christ? What does that mean? What is the Lamb of God? What does that mean? So I think after a while, it does mean something. But if no one really sits with a child or with a youth and explains the substance behind it, we're caught up in rituals. And after a while, rituals without roots, we will walk away from. So we like rituals. We're really into rituals, but we're really into substance. So I find that these spiritual paths really are teaching the same things. But I will say, that's my general statement. They're pushing us towards this trust in a divine plan. I see that. That's the commonality I find. Now for me, because why am I doing this then? Why not practice it in another form? I find that the truths that were given to the sages of Naimisharanya, right? The Bhagavatam was given. Who was the listener? They weren't simple folks. They were already liberated sages. And that's why the information in the Bhagavatam is just incredible detail about spirituality, metaphysics, mysticisms, diet, what is the soul, the journey of the soul, what are higher planets, how to go from higher planets to what is a lower planet, describe hell. It's all in great detail. What are the relationships you can have with God? I wouldn't tell trigonometry to a 5-year-old. I would leave it very basic. In the same way, I would tell my 5-year-old, listen, never, ever go in the street. Never, ever go in the street unless you're with dad. Okay? Do you understand that? You have to sometimes speak in a very pedestrian way to a child who needs to see things in black and white. Don't worship any other gods. Worship this God. Follow me. Okay? You get that? And so that statement is there again and again, because sometimes we're dealing with really simple people who are very new to this. And that's why I would say, even to a new person practicing bhakti, you got to keep things very simple, or else you just blow them out of the water. Yeah, the God of everything, a little baby cowherd boy. It's like, what? I would never lead with that. You see where I'm going with this?
Answer? I like it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were looking confused.
I was just looking.
Anyway. Mara, was that okay? Mara?
Yeah, that was great.
You with us today, Mara?
There's just a little lag. There's a little lag today. I think that's.
There's a little lag. I thought there was just a little disinterest.
How was that, Mara?
Right.
Mara's just like.
I'm sitting here with Wikipedia waiting for a question. Okay. Kaustubha, your turn.
Okay. Who's asking?
Okay. Who's asking? Who do you think? Who's our regular question answer? Anyone know here in the live? Harshal Gore. Every week he gets a question answered. That must mean Harshal Gore is very evolved, because evolved people have lots of questions that come up on a regular basis. Last week I've been studying a verse from the Bhagavad Gita. I've been trying to follow Kaustubha's Gita reading for the Makeover Monday. Kaustubha has a thing. I'm going to read a chapter of the Gita every Monday.
No, every day.
Bhagavad Gita. Every day. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. So in Bhagavad Gita 5:18, there's a good one. The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmin, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. A dog eater is like an outcast. This is such an interesting verse. We all would like to see others equally, but we don't really. I was quite shocked that Krishna would like us to see even a person who eats dogs with equal vision. What a bold statement. There's an interesting debate with the animal kingdom. A debate
within
with
about the animal kingdom, about the animals are debating.
Maybe I was thinking that the animals are debating constantly. Before you eat me, let me pose this question to you.
The animals are taking the pro-vegetarian stance.
It seems like the deer are debating with the lions. Listen, live and let live. No. Okay, being a vegetarian, I don't want to harm animals for my comfort, health, or pleasure. Then I saw this verse, news article last week. 500,000 sharks could be killed for the COVID-19 vaccine. Experts warn. Sky News should, that's from Sky News. Should we as humans see ourselves as superior to animals and use them to save us from COVID-19? I'm struggling to grapple with this, especially the situation we're all in right now. I would love to hear your thoughts, Kaustubha Harshagor.
Okay.
Good question.
Good questions. So let's talk about Bhagavad Gita verse 5.
What do you think the sharks are thinking about that? The sharks are thinking, nah, I'm sure there's a lot of other ways.
There must be a better way. Yeah. So he begins with the observation that Krishna mentions that a humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, right? They have jnana, they have real jnana, not true knowledge. They see with equal vision all these different types of people or even animals, right? A learned and gentle Brahmin means like a very refined, person with really high level behavior and, integrity and so on. And then a cow, an elephant, a dog, and then the dog eater. This term means like a person who's not so refined in their behavior, not.
Are you saying eating dog means you're not refined?
Apparently, Krishna is saying it, not me.
Okay.
And and he's saying that's such an interesting idea that we see all these people equally. Let's try to understand what that means, how we see everyone equally. And that is that within every living body, there's a spark of spiritual energy. It's almost like the battery within the body, right? Like if we had a bunch of little, I don't know, little robot toys, and each one had a battery in it that made it run, then we could, you could look at all of them and say inside there's an equal battery in each one of these, right? But one may be like, I don't know, do they have toys like that? They have all these toys, these Transformers and things like that, right? And so I'm not familiar with Transformers. They didn't have.
I like it. Kaustubha was trying to figure out what toys. They didn't have those. What did you play with, Kaustubha? Let's take a little detour here. What was your toy of choice?
I had little video, those little football games and things like that. Did you play? Like I remember that. I don't know.
Yeah,
I had different toys. I don't remember them so well, to be honest. I remember playing sports.
I was a G.I. Joe man myself.
I didn't have any of those action figures or anything like that. But in any case, let's say you had the Transformers and a bunch of other little toys, and each one was different, but each one ran on the same kind of battery, right? So that within each one of those toys, although they manifest in different ways, only temporarily, as long as that battery, the same battery could enter into all the different toys, and each one of the batteries is equal. It's not that each one of the toys is necessarily equal, but each one of the batteries is equal. And so the sage, by virtue of true knowledge, realizes that within the Brahmin, the learned and gentle Brahmin, there's a battery called the Atma, right? This pure spirit. And the same quality battery is within the cow, and you have the same exact quality battery within the elephant, and you have the same quality battery within the dog, and you have the same quality battery even within the dog eater. And what the learned person or the humble sage sees is that according to our karma, we're manifesting in different bodies. According to how we've lived in the past, we take birth in a particular body. The learned and gentle Brahmana was likely raised and trained in a particular way due to his karma or her karma. So they had advantages based on their previous life. And another Atma took birth in the body of a cow, and another body took birth in the body of a person that was raised in a family where they eat dogs, and that's going to maybe make life a little tougher for them. But they might, it's not that they necessarily see the behavior of all of these as equal, but they know that the battery within that person, the Atma, ultimately is on an equal level. They may be at different places on their journey, at different places on their path, but that wise person knows that they can all get to that same place once they become free of the external influences. They're all equal, right? And if you can see life that way, if you can see people that way, then you can begin to see like the sage sees, and you can begin to, even when people are behaving in a way that you feel is not so great, even if it's directed at you, that battery is in there. It's the same battery. It's the battery that Krishna loves, right? It's a battery that's pure ultimately, but it's just manifesting in this way right now in this particular body. And when we say body, that also includes the mindset, because the mind is the subtle body. So the wise person, the sage, is seeing them all equal on that level, not necessarily seeing the behavior as all equal, but seeing each one of those souls as equal on the spiritual level. And that vision is very deep and powerful, and it's a large part of what makes one a wise person, a sage, a deep person, a saint, is that kind of vision. And people commonly say that, right? That like when those real saintly people say like, yeah, that person, they didn't judge me, they accepted me as I was, and I couldn't believe that nobody ever treated me like that before. Like people feel that. Okay, and then
we have that great Bhakti recovery group.
Yeah.
Excuse me for Bard.
No, go.
The Bhakti recovery group is also really they really emphasize this principle of come as you are, welcome, no judgment,
Right.
anonymity, which for a person to really get clean with their shortcomings, you really have to have that environment. And as spiritual practitioners, we have to create that community where people can just share where they're at, maybe not publicly with thousands of people, but with one person, with two people, with a small group of people. This is where I'm at. I'm really struggling with this. It's very problematic if we're coming in already. I've got this together. Can't you tell by my spiritual outfit or my spiritual haircut, etc., that you can share so you can unearth these shortcomings that you have instead of burying them down. So yeah, anyway, it's bringing up a lot of stuff, your answer for me.
Okay. Now let's get to the second part no. And Harshal was speaking about this idea that he's heard or read some article that was saying that 500,000 sharks might be killed to create a COVID-19 vaccine. And he's asking about a principle. That's a detail. And he's also asking about the principle, is it that humans, is it wrong? Would it be wrong? I think he's asking this, right? For us to kind of benefit off the death of another animal. Are we superior to animals? And is it right or wrong for us to use them to save us from disease? Right. And I've heard important spiritual teachers say, but they were always saying this more in theory than in terms of any practicality. But like theoretically, yes, if one is going to die, then one might survive by eating an animal or something like that. One might, without, that there could be a justification in that. But I just want to share what comes to my mind when I hear this is that, specifically when I hear that there are people out there thinking that, okay, let's kill 500,000 sharks to save us from COVID-19. It just makes me think of how upside down the world is. How when we don't have spiritual knowledge, how when we don't have real spiritual clarity, then we always see things upside down. And that is that really the type of activity or behavior that gets us into these pandemics is killing animals. And we do it, and then the pandemic happens, and then we're trying to figure out how to get out of it. And the answer is, oh, let's mass slaughter more animals. It's like you don't solve the problem with the same type of thinking that got you into it. You with me, Raghu?
I am. You know, some people argue, you know, the disease wasn't caused by the wet markets; it was caused man-made in a lab. But you know,
well, even
I
first,
understand.
but here I was careful to say that I'm just sharing where my mind goes. I'm not giving an answer about
No, I get
if
it.
that's true or not.
I get it.
But in general, even if that were true, in general,
Sure.
the majority of these pandemics are started by animal slaughter. And so when I just hear that, I think, you know, there's a vast wealth of wisdom out there. This entire culture that grows out of the Vedic teachings. And, you know, that includes the spiritual teachings, but it also includes, you know, social ideas. And it also includes ideas about health, you know, Ayurveda and so on. It includes so much. And I think both you and I have found in our 30-something years of kind of being immersed in the culture that if we could just get it through our heads to live simply and be kind to one another, right? Be kind to one another. That means to the learned and gentle Brahmin, to the cow, to the elephant, to the dog, and to the dog eater. When I see them all equally, then I realize I don't only have to be kind to my family, and I don't only have to be kind to my, you know, neighbors or my countrymen or women. I actually need to be kind to everyone. And I even need to be kind to the animals because there's that same battery inside each one of them. So if we actually embrace that idea that we move through this world living as simply and as kind as we can, then I think we wouldn't have to worry so much about these pandemics. And that's just why I think, you know, the world's upside down. We don't have spiritual knowledge. We don't have spiritual leaders that have a depth of spiritual knowledge. I'm not even criticizing the intention at all, but to me, it's just a symptom of a society that doesn't have a head well established on it, you know? So it's moving forward confused, you know? There are natural ways that we could live. If we could live simply, you know, there's all kind of, you mentioned the immune system, you know, earlier on. There's
the Bhava Wellness witch, you know what I mean?
There's so many herbs and
there's
yeah,
so many herbs.
Yeah, in other words, it's kind of like saying, hey, due to our living out of harmony with nature, we've created a horrible pandemic. What's the answer? Let's live even more out of harmony with nature. No, the answer is that we have to actually return to living in harmony with nature. You know, now, so in any case, that's where, you know, Harshal asked that question. So that's the way I view the entire subject.
Sure.
You know, I'm not condemning someone for having that idea. I would imagine that the people that are trying to do that have very good intentions and they just want to help people. But when I hear it, I can't help but think, oh, it's just, the answer is actually simple. We all need to, but there's no politician, the mass of people would never vote for the politician that says, we all have to simplify our lives, you know? We don't need all these cars and we don't need all these televisions and we don't need all these smartphones and we don't need all of this stuff. We need to get back to farming and living simply, and we're going to be happier when we do that. Like nobody's going to vote for that.
Simple living's bad for the economy.
Yeah, simple living is bad. Yeah, exactly. What's good for us is we need to produce more and more junk, and we need to buy lots of it, and that's what's going to help.
Good. Yeah, junk is good.
Yeah. So in any case, those are my thoughts, Harshal, and I hope that's helpful. Okay, you ready for another one, Raghu?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, maybe we do one.
Take care of our immune system. Why we're forgetting this?
It's real important. I mean, yeah, I
would love for someone just to make that loud statement.
Take care of your immune system. Take care of your immune system. How's that?
Hit me.
Okay. This is coming from Josh Moody via the Discord thread.
Josh Moody's a regular. He's a regular Zoomie.
All right. Here we go. My question has to do with seated meditation. All right. Ooh. I know you're a wandering meditator, Raghu. Right? You wander the woods.
I'm a scattered meditator.
Okay. My question has to do with seated meditation. This has been brought up on the show before, most recently by Edwin Bryant. But generally, I come from the Theravada Buddhist background, where seated meditation of various types plays a central role. Since coming to Bhakti Yoga, I have added daily hearing, Wisdom of the Sages podcast, reading, and chanting to my routine. But I kept the seated meditation as well, and it has proved useful in my daily life and interactions with the world. Specifically, I'm wondering if there is a particular form of bhakti seated meditation, and if so, what does that entail in terms of practice? As the goal would likely be to continue to develop and deepen a personal relationship with Krishna, does the practice involve visualization or any type of focus? And are there any particular methods? Thank you all for your time and attention. Josh Moody.
Great question. Great question, Josh Moody. I'm seeing him right there. Hi, Josh, on Zoom. I think it's a great question, and I think that eventually, first of all those practices of Buddhism, when you add Krishna, it really is, they really work well together. You know, that type of deep mindful. I mean, what good is mindfulness without Krishna? Because what'll happen, you can be mindful and be evil. There's a lot of like horrible mindful people out there. They're incredibly mindful, but they've done horrible things. There's probably, notorious despots and, totalitarians is the word. Thank you.
Works.
Horrible people, incredibly mindful, crooks, criminals. Yeah, very mindful criminals. We want to have our mindfulness directed towards divinity. So I think it's a beautiful marriage of these practices. And I really think Krishna is like holding your hand, Joshua, through this entire practice. And now you're sitting there, you're sitting in silence, you're controlling your mind, you're controlling your senses. And now Krishna's just here and take this holy name. And so part of me feels like you're doing it. Now you're just, and you're giving time to hearing, and you've added japa. So you can, in that sitting process, now we were taught the holy name is so powerful, you could take it anywhere. You could walk down the street, you could walk in the forest. And we've also mentioned that if you are a little scattered, be careful. You might have to figure out what is your particular way to chant that's going to work for you. And I think Kaustubha and myself, when we lived in ashram, there was a period where you just chant your japa in the temple room. The deities are closed, the altar's closed, and all the monks are walking around chanting japa, a lot of times sitting, chanting japa, a lot of times pacing, chanting japa. I'm just thinking of weird ashrams. We were, we'd always, in Brooklyn, we'd go to the roof and chant japa surrounded by Tulsi. I've got special japa places on my property that I like to go and chant. Kaustubha likes to go to Central Park and chant. But the trick is to find a place where you can really hear the holy name and you won't be distracted. And the idea of sitting can help a lot of people because there's nowhere to go. You're sort of like, okay, sit there and just deal with it. Deal with your body, deal with your mind, stop fidgeting. It helps to have somebody over your shoulder with a stick. Sit up straight. Just kidding. But I've seen that in like ideas of like Buddhist meditation hit you. Or I've done other ones with students where we put a glass of water on our head, but not a glass, like a paper cup with water, where you're sitting up tall and just chanting, and without keeping you from falling asleep or things like that.
Fidgeting.
So I think that, can help you. That being said, sitting might be so problematic for some people's minds that all they can think of is moving around. And if that's the case, note where you are. But if you feel like, no, my mind is pretty controlled, I can sit. If you're if you're suffering from back pain, like sometimes I'll give a yoga class and people need to sit in a chair. I'm giving a discourse rather. And there's certain people come in and they need to sit in a chair. Should that disqualify them from a spiritual life? because they have a bad back or something. No, it means they have to sit, where they can feel comfortable, and their mind is calm. So I think it's important to understand the purpose behind why there's this idea of sitting meditation. And the purpose is we're trying to hear very clearly the sound of the mantra, and the healing is in the sound. Now, in that sound, preempting that is we're hearing these pastimes of Krishna. We're hearing these stories of Krishna, and we're absorbed in the stories. And naturally, those forms of Krishna will come up. So when I'm chanting the holy name, I'll hear the sound, and my mind will wander to Krishna. I'm hearing a sound, and my mind will wander to a pastime. I mean, so look where it's wandering to, that name, that form, that lila. That's where we want it to go. And then we'll bring it back to the sound. Now, there are types of advanced meditation where you're actually meditating and listening and really refining a form of Krishna and an activity in your mind. And there's times where you almost enter into that pastimes. And there's many, many stories like that. These are sort of esoteric meditations, and it's basic. We start on simple math. And simple math, so to speak, can be sitting, hearing, and when your mind wanders, it goes to a form of Krishna as well. But all that stuff is real. You could also do it. Sometimes people need to do it a little bit audible, where they hear them, because without the hearing, sometimes there's a tend to snooze, right? Sometimes they have to even say it loud, Hare Krishna, because the mind will go a little dull sometimes, especially if you're doing it early in the morning. So sometimes I'll say it very soft. Sometimes I'll say it within my breath and exhaling within my breath or within my mind silently. And sometimes I'll have to say it very loud, depending on where I am. And sometimes I find it helps me to actually stop in the mantra form and speak to Krishna in a very human English form, where I can sort of, okay, get me back on trail. I don't want to do mindless repetition. I want to see that I'm actually speaking to a being. And that helps me bring my mind back under control. Those are my little tricks for chanting japa. And I try to explain like the purpose of sitting meditation. You know, I hope that was a good answer.
It's a good answer of it.
A good answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there I would just maybe tack onto that there are traditions of meditation within within Bhakti, like meditating on the form of Lord. In Bhagavatam, in the third canto, we're going to read about how Kapila describes how to meditate to his mother on the form of Lord Vishnu. There's different types of meditation, and within Vaishnavism is also, or the Bhakti tradition, there's also the idea of meditating on Krishna's pastimes, sitting still, breathing, and then bringing your mind to Krishna's pastimes. So that's all done. And I think that any of the skills of, sitting still that he's cultivated through Buddhism, you just, like you're saying, just add Krishna to him, and particularly chanting the holy name. Yeah.
I gotta tell the story of what I told you the other day, because it's such a good story.
Which one was that?
And it has to do with this. Well, the story, I was about to get on the plane to come to Tucson. And I had to wait. I woke up at 3 a.m. and it's so crazy. My dream that I woke up to, I was on the plane with Craig from Sick of It All. Okay. So me and Craig are on the plane, and interesting little side note. Before we got on the plane, we were eating some orange Tic Tacs. Okay, this all has something to do with the story. Don't shake your head, Mara. It's part of the story.
Mara knows what that means. The meaning of the orange Tic Tac.
Okay. So we were about to go on and eat these orange Tic Tacs, right? And then, as we're flying the plane and taking off, we see a giant billboard of orange Tic Tacs. And then we're flying high in the sky, and we're just flying and we're talking, and all of a sudden, the plane starts to go down tremendously, and you can now see the trees. And Craig looked at me and goes, "What's going on? What's going on?" I go, "This plane is going down. Listen, close your eyes and think of a sweet, beautiful form of Krishna right now. Just think of Krishna right this moment." And I close my eyes. and I just conjured up that form, that face, that outfit, that peacock feather. I did it right in my mind. Boom, and the plane crashed.
And
that's how I woke up.
Amazing.
And I'm supposed to go on my trip with my son on the plane. And so me and my son, the funny part of the story is, me and my son went into the airport, and I said, "You want something before we take off?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Maybe I'll get some gum or some Tic Tacs." And he reached for these orange Tic Tacs.
Orange ones too.
No, not the Tic Tacs. Not the damn Tic Tacs. And he goes, "Nah, I'll just get the gum."
Amazing.
But it's the same idea. It's important to hear the pastimes. That's a true story. That's a true story. It's important to hear the pastimes, and it's important to have a vision of Krishna in your mind for such situations where you can just close your eyes. Oh, this is it. Now I get the Ace of Spades dealt with me. I wasn't expecting it. I had a whole plan in Tucson. Now's the time. Close your eyes. There's your meditation. Pull it in. Pull in the senses, and leave your body.
Nice.
Whew. Thank you. Last question, or one of the last questions here?
Okay. Yeah. Well, this would be the last one.
Okay. This is from Jorgen from the Netherlands.
Okay.
Man, people listen from the Netherlands.
Sure.
Recently, I picked up the advice about a meditation question I had a few weeks ago, slowing down and appreciating life and taking things less for granted. Good advice. I purchased the Bhagavad Gita a while back and started reading it. I'm pretty new to this, so that's a start. But here's the thing. I'm not sure about your daily routine, but in mine, it seems like I have a lack of time to all those things. That I read to do all those things that I read yogis need to do on a daily basis. Yeah, there's a lot. Being a yogi is like a full-time job. I try and plan for my meditation before going to work and read as much as I can. But with coming home from work like at 2 a.m. and then 8 hours of sleep to keep me fit and all the other tasks in the house, it seems I'm short of time to do what needs to be done to move forward spiritually. Could you give me useful tips about the daily routine and how to do the small things right in order to move forward? Thank you so much, and very, very much appreciated. I know what you're going to say.
Do you? Because I don't.
Sleeping's Maya. He's sleeping too much.
Sleepless.
He's sleeping too much. There's a lot of people who are really pushing this pro-sleep movement, and I'm here to tell you, it's the devil's workshop.
Okay. Yeah, my
Less
immediate,
sleep.
here's some thoughts that I see. Two common things. One is that our schedules nowadays are just out of control. We work too much. Society is demanding that we work too much. Our jobs are demanding that we work too much. That's one thing. And that makes things difficult. But another thing is actually, usually we say we have no time, but we actually do have time. It's just a question of how we use it. So I'm not saying Jorgen falls on either side of either one of those, but I do see both those trends, right? You with me, Raghu? I mean, it is a fact that we always say, well, I don't have time, but usually we do waste some time in our day, and so, but here's the point. Let's assume that it is difficult. It is difficult to find time. Then here's my thought: is that particularly in the beginning, what we need to do is we need to set aside some time, and even small amounts of time can be very powerful if we approach them with the right dedication and the right devotion. So even 10 minutes of your day can be the most valuable 10 minutes of your day, and they can become worth the whole rest of the day if you use that time well. And if that focus is there in that time, and this is the important point, more important than well, let me just say, it's very important in yoga practice that what you do regularly. Regularity. The mind is such a tricky thing. You can throw something good at it, but then it's gone. What makes a difference in the mind is that you do something every day, right? It's that regularity that the mind is so tough to beat down, but if you keep doing the same thing every day, the mind starts to surrender to it. And so even if you had 10, 15 minutes, 1/2 hour, who doesn't have 1/2 hour that they can really, I mean, it can be hard, especially like mothers and mothers that work and stuff. It's hard. But even if you find a short amount of time, but you're really regular with it and you're really devoted to it and your heart is set on it. And even while you're going through the rest of the day, you're thinking about that short amount of time because it's so important to you and because you prioritize it. And you use 20 minutes a day, 10 minutes for chanting and 10 minutes for reading Bhagavad Gita and contemplating on it. That 20 minutes will become like a very powerful influence on your spiritual life. But if you don't do it every day and you just do it on occasion, even if you do more time on occasion, it's not going to have as powerful an effect. So I would suggest that you're going to begin by like really with a strong vow, right? With a strong sense of determination, a strong intention. Set aside a time each day where he's going to add a little hearing, add a little chanting, right? And find a way to build the rest of the day around that. Not try to slip that into the day, but build the rest of the day around that time. And if I believe that if you can do that, then you're going to find that time will start. Then the mystical stuff, the Krishna miracles can start to happen, right? Then Krishna will open doors and you'll realize, actually, I was wasting another half an hour in the day, but I didn't feel like wasting it anymore because I got so into this. And then, even more radical, abrupt changes in your life may occur, by Krishna's grace that can happen. So, but try to find a little time. Try to wake up earlier if possible. It seems like you get into 2 a.m., so that's a tough one. But try to get up and early on after you get up, try to dedicate some time. See if you can set that aside, and then see what happens. But that regularity and that dedication, and make that time precious. Don't allow it to be interfered with. Say, hey, this is my time. Explain that to others that it needs to be explained to. I need my peace. I need my time alone to myself, and I'm going to focus on it. And then see what happens.
Our good friend Sri Govinda, when he was getting into all this stuff, he was always very strict with, I just chant 1 round a day, but no one disturbs me within that round. It's just me and Krishna. There's no disturbance. I just sit there and I hear that round. And I think that's such a great way to start this whole practice. You chant 1 round of japa a day. It's not a huge investment. But whenever you don't get disturbed, it's like you'll get such an incredible return on investment. And I also wanted to say that me and Kaustubha grew up in an ashram where there was sleep fascists all the time. They would walk around with like gongs and wake us up. And it was, I joke about this now, the sleep fascism, because the message board is going out of control with, it's good for your immune system, Raghunath. But anyway. Off my back. Anyway, thanks everybody. Another great thing is when you listen to the show, which a lot of you guys are, it's like you're in a mine and you're digging up different types of slate and shale, and then you hit a piece of gold, right? When you find that gold, you put that in your pocket. If you find something on the show, that's your gold. And then you walk around with it a day, and that's your takeaway. Let's have a takeaway from the class, like every day, that you can say, I need this. I need to repeat this to myself. I need to hear it on a regular basis, and I need to share it. And then you share it, how people share things nowadays with a friend or on social media. You tag Wisdom of the Sages. We'll retag it because sometimes we didn't even pick up what came out. So thanks everybody for joining us live in Tucson, Arizona. We're here tomorrow with a direct import from Brindavan Dham. We're having Leela Vilasini, not to be missed. And today, there's been a drought in Tucson, and guess what? It was supposed to storm and rain and get cold, and you know what happened? A little blue cowherd boy came, lifted his finger and said, the weather's gonna be good. And that's where we're at today.
Are you saying that a sunny day in Arizona is a Krishna miracle?
No, it was been predicted. Today was the storm day. This was the day. And Krishna's holding back the clouds. He's lifting a mountain. Thanks for everybody for joining us. Thanks for Live. Thanks for Live, and thanks for all the others out there. There's a lot of others out there. This is the problem with Live. They got to listen to the beat, or you're going to clap off beat. There we go. Don't blow the beat, Live. Hey, if you want us to join Live, you got to email Mara at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com, and then you can join this little party as well. And remember, we're a community-supported podcast. Patreon.com/wisdomofthesages is how you can support us. We need your support. We appreciate your support. And then you have a whole yoga university that we provide on Patreon. So please join us. And now it's time for ecstatic dancing. Now, if you follow my lead, you'll see I've been working on newer moves.